Like everyone says, oh my god, Firefly's so strong, what the fuck? And yeah, and she is strong, but she's only strong on said team. She's ass everywhere else. I believe the power creep in Honkai Star Rail is just power creep within team comps or like niches. Like certain team comps just have amazing power creep. Not necessarily the characters themselves. Like the characters obviously output more damage, but it's not like you can throw like some of the strongest characters in the game at every single team and they just absolutely pop off. Like if you took Firefly or Acheron off their team, then their damage drops significantly. That's my current thought on power creep, but I'm sure he'll bring up some of these points in this video here. So that's why I kind of want to react to it. It's a 26-minute video, so I'm probably gonna put this motherfucker on 2x speed, or yeah, probably on 2x speed here. Hopefully it's not too fast, just because yeah, it's a 26-minute video. This YouTube video does not need to be that long.
It's been very long, almost 6 months since we last did this kind of video, and let's talk about what.
Oh, he did a video 6 months ago. So let's see here, early days. So I feel like for the most part, a lot of the early game like characters have been power crept, or all of them have been power crept. But I think the team, like I was saying earlier, is I think team comps themselves have gotten better. So some of like these early game players that were really bad, or like early game characters that were really bad, like the standard characters, have gotten a lot better. Some of them have, because of the team comps getting better, right? Like the team comps to power corrupt other team comps in the game, and like the old way we used to build teams. And I think that's going to transition into, I guess here when he says the next phase, I think that's what's going to happen when we transition to that phase into the game, because everything's just become so much more niche. Like the more niche things become, the more powerful I think things are going to become, right? But when you take them out of their niche, they don't do that much, which is I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's going to make the game a lot harder to come in for new players, but we'll talk about when he gets there, I guess.
Having a game with a very like long history.
Okay, have a good one, Rhea.
We get to do some analysis on what has happened. We have actual like statistics and data to show like what went up and then what came down after that.
Okay,
so let's talk about it. In the early days, for those of you, let's like travel back in time right now. In the early days, we had a meta of like Zila, Jingyuan. These were the two characters.
100%. Yeah, Zila. I mean, well, those are the first characters we got in the game.
Much dominated the entire meta, and slowly after some period of time, we actually had a.
I mean, obviously, like the first two characters that come to the game are like gonna have to like be better than the standard characters, or else there's no real reason to pull for them. No, okay, the first baton pass. Where did this really change at? I'm not gonna lie. I think this changed with Jingliu, Dragon Danny. These were basically like did more damage than both of these characters more consistently with less restrictions, I would say. I would think this is Jingliu Danny, and then meta shift is probably when we get into like dot meta and like follow-up meta maybe.
Like baton pass to move over to the next two DPSs. Walk down memory lane here for some of us who started.
Oh! Oh! Look at that, guys.
Very early on in the game, and have been following the channel since as well.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for a pretty long time too. So in my
the big thing with them is like they did like more damage with less restrictions. Like you had to rely on Lightning Lord for his damage. You had to rely a lot more on killing enemies for her damage, like Resurgence and stuff like that. The only restrictions here is she needed to be in Transcendent state, and then he needed to use 3 skill points.
Lune, Jingliu were then the next two characters that came into flavor.
Which is arguably a lot less restrictive than waiting for Lightning Lord 10 stack to come up and waiting for you to kill an enemy. Which arguably, I guess it's not like that far off. You have to wait for to kill an enemy, but the restrictions here are like, I guess, on their terms versus on enemy terms, or like a turn basis.
And slowly as the game go on, we had meta shifts, broad things that changed. We went from a hyper carry style in the early days of Honkai Star Rail, moving on to a little bit more of a...
like I go, oh my god, like I fucking said. Dot and fucking follow-up, 100%. That is where the meta shifted for 2.0, is that we were going to like a dot follow-up meta. Current day, it's like break meta now. I guess Acheron debuff meta. I mean, like, I don't even know. Can you even consider Acheron debuff like a meta? Because Acheron's really the only person that can take use of that. Like, obviously, Acheron is the meta, but we have break meta as well. I mean, no, this is just how the games went, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try to predict right now what I think is going to happen, right? Break meta here. Probably a follow-up meta as well, like Fua meta. Like the full follow-up meta kind of went there as well. Dot has kind of fallen off just because it really hasn't gotten much support added into the game. And then I would say probably like an Acheron meta. I mean, Acheron kind of has to be here. But like Acheron meta is probably somewhere in here as well. And then the next phase. Now, where is the next phase going to go? I believe it's going to nicheify the game even more, right? So we're going to have like super specific niche scenarios for break teams, super specific like niche scenarios for follow-up teams. So maybe we get more characters in the game that kind of play like how Acheron play, where their ultimate is charged off of doing a certain thing. I think that is where the meta is going. Like, I feel like the more constrained it gets, like the more constrained the meta gets or the team gets, the more damage you're going to be able to perform with that character, because you have those high restraints or like big restrictions. It's like nin abilities, right? That's what I see it as. It's like when Gon went to his adult form, he gave up all his nin to basically beat the fuck out of Pito, right? That's how I see it here, right? You're giving up all of your other damage and other facets of the game to fucking beat that ass with that one team, you know? That's how I see it.
A little bit meta shift, and also because we got 3 characters like Dr. Ratio, people started to move more in follow-up team compositions, as well as a bit of DOT, since Black Swan was the first like main DPS DOT other than Kafka to be released in the game. And moving on, of course, now this is the current game.
Well, wait, what's Boot Heal there for? Boot Hill's break, Firefly's break. Why is Boot Hill there?
In terms of like the fancier characters. Notice here I just put in like the DPS characters because this is very obvious like to see how the meta changes. But of course there are other big characters that are super important. We'll touch on in a bit. I just wanted to give like an overall arcing overview because DPS characters are like the ones that are very obvious to see what changed from okay to good to not that okay. And this is pretty much the game state that we're in now with Boot Hill break. Boot Hill is like representative for overall break teams. You have your Acheron teams, you have your Firefly teams. These are
Acheron. I feel like overall break teams, but she has to be around on a break team. Like you're not running Firefly on a not break team. Like that's just not happening. So, I mean, I feel like she would be more so a representative for, like, an overall break team. I don't really know why they have two there, but go off, can I guess?
Kind of the very, very popular characters right now. And the next phase, and that's what this video aims to do, we not only want to, like, talk about power creep in terms of who's going to be the next phase, but the main objective of this video is really to tell us what characters tend to outperform, even though ups and downs of, like, the meta shifts and stuff, and what characters just struggle throughout, and etc. Next phase, of course,
yes, Fei Zhao.
That's why we're doing this video right now. Is I think that we are in for a little bit of a shift in terms.
I think Fei Zhao is definitely gonna bring in like a new type of meta into the game. I actually don't know much what Fei Zhao does. I've only seen her ultimate animations. I haven't actually looked into her kit at all. Maybe she works with March because we did have March training to be that swordsmith or whatever, and she does like follow-up attacks and stuff like that. So maybe follow-up does play a role here. I think this would be like the big follow-up unit that the game needs, right? For like follow-up to have like that top tier DPS, because we have a top tier like boom DPS for break teams. We have a boom DPS for like Anhility or debuff related teams, and then I think we have to have a boom DPS for like a follow-up team, right?
Of the meta changes maybe, and also new very strong DPS is coming out. Fei Zhao is one of them that could be very strong. We of course don't have live information right now. I'll touch on more of it once the live stream comes up, which is probably in a couple of days.
Yeah, it's gonna be in a couple of days. But okay, so since I'm glad that he brought this up because now I can go back to our little doc here. My analysis here, right, is after we get the next phase where we get a super strong like follow-up character, which that's what I think she'll probably be, a super strong fluid character. That's kind of like the trend has been going down. Follow-up, Anhility, and then break, right? I mean, that's kind of like been the build-up for all of 2.0. I honestly think that we are going to get probably one or two more like super niche DPS added into the game. Like I think we'll probably get like a super niche like dot character to like revitalize dot some. After we hit this phase right here, I think we're going all the way back here. I think what they're gonna do is we're gonna see a full circle power creep, because after these characters come out and we get those strong, we'll probably get some characters that are strong for all around teams again, like all around like teams, but the multipliers are higher and they just do overall more damage, right? Like they're not doing as much damage as these niche characters, but they're like a lot closer to these niche characters than any of these characters are, right? So I think we're gonna go back to square one here and they're gonna rebuild back up again. I think that's probably what they're gonna do. It's very similar to something like Dokkan Battle or Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. What they do is they give you leader abilities for each different class, right? So say you had like a Saiyan leader ability, say you had a Super Saiyan leader ability. They give you all these like niche like leader abilities to run like niche teams, and then for like their yearly anniversary, they combine different like leader abilities, and then at some point when they want to do a full upgrade, they'll basically give you like a super and extreme class, which covers like half the characters in the game. So you have like a super leader, which will basically cover every single good guy in the game, and then you'll have the extreme leader ability, which covers every single bad guy in the game, and then from there they give you a higher multiplier for a leader ability for niche teams again, which has like 1 to 2 categories in that niche there. So I feel like that's what they're gonna do here. They're gonna go all the way back here to Route 1 after they've explored a lot of like these super niche options. Go back here, give us like a strong unit, like a strong all-around like DPS, and then go right back through this chart here again. And maybe add in like some additional like character like optimizations rather than like follow-up, maybe like a different variation of follow-up or something like that. But I think that's how it's gonna go. Anyways, let's get back to the video here.
The time of recording this video, if it's already out, you're watching this sometime in the future, you can check the channel out for more information, official information. We don't really like discuss leaks on this channel.
Yeah, no leakers here.
Next part over here, and there are 4 inevitable truths. Okay, sure. My words here. 4 inevitable truths to power creep. What are the 4 things that are going to happen? No one, I guess, no one can actually dispute this. The first one is you will have new enemies.
Yeah, new enemies with new damaging types, with new like bigger health bars and stuff like that, which calls for the use of newer characters that have higher multipliers that deal more damage. So yeah, that there, and then also the enemies that play into more niches, right?
Honkai Star Rail, a game that has been out for like 1 year plus, we are still going to have new enemies coming out. Yeah. Be it whether monsters that are like specific elements need to break them, or you need like specific targeting that shield.
And also you do have to power creep, because if you're not power creeping characters, even if someone likes a character, you're just going to lose sales for the character because they're not stronger.
They have damage reflect, they have cleanse, they have super high effect resistance. All of these things definitely will come in the game. The game will not be at a stale state where everything is the same. We are probably in the easier part of the game and it will just get more and more difficult. Natural progression of games in general. The second thing is that is undisputably
also, new characters. So I also want to add something onto this as well, right? New characters. The reason why I think they're going to go all the way back to when there is like an overall like DPSs versus like niche DPSs, because if they keep going down this route and keep like giving like super niche DPS, then it's going to run into the situation where the new players into the game are not going to be able to do in-game content because they have to wait for these super niche like characters that come out for their teams, right? I guess they could go the route of like giving like overall support for like these things, right? But they need to release more 4-stars for that. But I do think overall they're going to go back to like the very like broad like overall DPS for the teams, and then start building on niche again to try to capture a new player audience.
True
right?
Is that there are going to be new characters in the game. It's a gacha game, and after all, and the way that Hoyoverse monetizes Honkai Star Rail is by selling you new characters, selling you new light cones, so 2 things, and as well as maybe skins in future, the battle pass resources, all 100%. Other stuff. It's just a monetization model of gacha games, and new characters will be added.
Also,
in the game.
New gear and stuff too. They're going to release new gear and stuff too. 100%.
I'm pushing it into the trend of why power creep will happen in gacha games. The third factor here is we will have new/rotational game modes because.
Do you guys think they'll add in more rotational game modes? Like we already have 3 rotational in-game game modes. Do you think they would do something to the point where like a new game mode comes out like every single week or something like that? Like, do you think it'll get to that point where they have a new in-game game mode every week? They obviously have to add a new game modes or whatever to keep the game fresh and like people wanting to play it. But
it's 1 year plus into the game, whether they're going to be introducing more game modes, because we already have like 3, right? We have Apocalyptic Shadow, we have Pure Fiction, and we have the Memory of Chaos. So I would think that they are planning to go on a rotation.
Dress to impress, slay.
Is between these 3 game modes, or perhaps, I don't know, maybe they might have a 4th game mode, a 5th game mode in future to add on to like Simulated Universe and blah blah blah. So you could see some variety. I just put it here. This is also an undisputed truth. It's either going to rotate,
100%.
change, or
I agree
new
with
things are going to happen. And the 4th thing, which I want to expand a little bit on, is new styles. There are going to be new styles in the game, be it whether...
So maybe instead of doing something like this, after this it resets, maybe they go from here, like I was bringing up earlier with the Dokkan Battle reference that I had. So maybe they go from here to buffing pass, kind of like how Acheron like is a buff for like the Inhility power, like works like really well with just Inhility characters. Maybe they do that, like building whole classes out for the Inhility class, building whole classes out for the Erudition class, and like the teams revolve around having like other Erudition characters on the team, other Inhility characters, other Preservation characters on the team. Maybe we'll get something added to the game like that, and then it'll reset after that, right? Becoming like less and less niche to a point where you have to release a broad character.
Don't get confused by this. I just mean expansion in terms of hunt, expansion in terms of erudition, expansion in terms of preservation, abundance. We can see that quite obviously, like Nihility characters expanding into like debuff, DOT. Some of them might even become a healer somewhat in the future, etc. etc.
Yeah, I mean it has to expand that way.
Being like DPSs in nature. You have also elemental expansion where you have hunt characters of all different elements coming out. They will expand broader on that. But the more important thing that we actually done a lot of analysis on this channel is actually team composition styles. And let's go on to the next part here, which is styles of teams. These
so I think this is a very good thing to mention here. Like, while we have Dot, Hypercarrier, Skill Point, Debuff, HP Decay, Fast, Often, Break, Dot, I think it's going to break into more, like, I guess, like, is it less or more niche? I don't know. Like, having a Hunt team, or having an Erudition team, or having a Destruction team, or having an Agility team, or having an Abundance team, or having a Preservation, Army team, whatever you might call it, right? And then just having those characters play off of other characters in the team. Like, you might have, like, a full team with, like, let's say Hunt characters, right? Where you have one that gives you more damage based off the amount of Hunt characters. Then you have someone else on the team that gives you, like, extra HP or healing based off the amount of Hunt characters, and so on and so forth.
For those of you who have followed the channel for a while now, there are 8 main styles in Honkai Star Rail. Don't worry if you haven't seen the video, the 8 styles of Honkai Star Rail on the channel. You can just search it out on YouTube. It will be probably ranked for one of the top few. In terms of you just search this up on the YouTube search bar. There are 8 main teams for those of you who have no idea. And the idea here is Honkai Star Rail tends to rotate the new characters.
So Abundance team, not hard actually. You know how like it works in Simulated Universe? I see it working very similar to how teams do in Simulated Universe. That's what my my thought would be on it. Yeah, I mean, but even still with Abundance, you can still do a fuck ton of damage. Like, you know how like like with Abundance Path, Bailu's hitting for like 300, 400k on some attacks, right? Because healing equals damage that you do. So maybe they'll have something like that, an Abundance character, whereas healing equals more damage that they do, or something like that. Right, him for example, right? He's a character in here that scales off of break damage. So if you have a character that scales off of what is it called? Like outgoing healing that gives you damage percentage or something like that, that would obviously work in here. I can see it working very similar to Simulated Universe. It's already a system in the game. So all they would have to do is take elements from SimUni and put that into each one of these teams.
One of these 8 teams. If you're not talking about paths and element changes, most characters in the game that are released, and by most I mean so far it's 100%, will fit into one of these 8 styles, and that's how they like differentiate from each other. I put here a very simple example. You can have Mark 7 Hunt, which mainly plays into follow-up teams, break teams, fast and often moving teams, hyper carry. But this is where I think that they are planning to continue to go, expansion on the 8 teams.
Okay.
Right now, follow-up attacking in terms of the counter style for like Unity kind of style is not very, very popular. Whereas like, for example, the traditional follow-up like Topaz, Nambi, Dr. Rich.
Yeah, like more niche. Okay, I guess, yeah. More niche of these playstyles here. Yeah, understandable.
Quite established, and fast and often is something that they might want to move in towards in the future HBDK teams as well. For more information, if you want more theory on what is this 8 teams, we'll talk about it in this specific video. But for this video, I want to mainly talk about power creep, because that's why we're here for. Now that we have understood what we laid the grounds, we understand what is the things that are going to happen to Honkai Star Rail and how it specifically applies to this game. Let's talk about 4 things that makes characters built to last. And if you're finding value in this video so far, you like the way we are presenting different formats compared to maybe other creators out there, do give us a like, comment, and subscribe as well.
Yeah, subscribe to EOD Gamer, guys. If you haven't subscribed already to EOD Gamer, I don't know how many views this video will get, but hey, subscribe, hit him with it. That's how you do it right there. I just clicked it. Oh, it's covered by chat, but if you look through the chat and go back in the video, you see how I did it. Subscribe to EOD Gamer and give it a like as well, guys. Boost them up in the algorithm. This is a pretty decent video so far.
Characters that are built to last. Okay. Non-DPS. Okay, this is just an overall general view, but if you ask most people on the street, they will tell you DPS characters not that good to invest in the long run.
I kind of disagree with this. Because whenever we start getting those super niche non-DPS characters, I feel like that's also detrimental. Like, Zhao Zhu, for example, right? I think he's a big example of this. If you're not running him on a debuff, like, centric team, like, I mean, he can like, work in other teams, but I feel like he's just, like, built for an Acheron team and an Acheron team only. Like, he's only 2nd or 3rd best in slot and easily to get power crept in those categories with how the game is going with, like, more niche playstyles and more niche teams.
Easy to power creep. Support characters, on the other hand,
but generally, yes, I agree with this.
Very good because they go the long way, harder to power creep. But I will show you in this video in a little bit that that's not always true, not always the case. Yes, most DPSs tend to get power creep easier, but not all supports are 100% everlasting. We'll touch on that in a bit too. So first thing, characters that are built to last, generally they are non-damage dealers in general. Why is that the case? Some of you might be wondering. It's easier to sell a damage dealer that deals 1 million damage than sell a support that protects you for 1 million damage.
Exactly.
I don't know why, it's just how it works.
I mean, yeah, when you see it in your head, like, you're not going to sit here see the enemy do 1 million damage on you. You're like, I just killed him in 1 shot? Oh my god, yeah, get that character. I want him now, or I want her now.
We work as human beings, we just want to see big PP numbers, more damage.
Yeah.
It is what it is, but if it sells, that's what the company will likely push up more. Versatile characters are also characters that are built to last. We talked about the 8 different...
Yeah, that's like more the point, right? Like, I think it depends on the niche they're in, right? Versatile characters, but they have to have a strong enough buff or debuff while being versatile. You know, like, for example, like, Gwenithan is a very versatile character. I don't know if she's actually built to last, though. Like, she works in a lot of teams, but I can see her being power crept in the near future. Like, we already see Big J already power creeping her in that sense, with, like, being, like, an all-around unit. But someone like Ruan Mei or even, like, Robin, right, works for a plethora of teams. And just it works on, like, very versatile in a lot of teams.
Teams already, characters that can be played not only to the 8 different teams, but even their kit can be done doing a lot of different things. For example, their buffers, their debuffers, their healers, all in one, damage 100%. Protection, damage mitigation, blah, blah, blah. Those are kind of characters that are more versatile than others. Niche characters tend to be not as viable in the long run. Of course, there are exceptions. This is just broad blanket rules to the case. Broad styles, again, this is focusing mainly on the 8 teams. If you can play into many of the 8 teams, you are likely more built to last. A character like that would probably be a character like Runmei. You can be played into many different styles in different 8 teams and probably be
I would also say she's part of the versatility.
That's what makes a character built to last for the long run. And last but not least, rare. You can't have been in a crowded space where everyone is like all very good. There's so many competition in that area. If you are one of the rare characters, or these characters particularly rare, you probably will last a little bit longer than a lot of your other counterparts who are like super common, and there's like a lot of alternatives in the game too. So now, I put this out here, don't need to cover and go. Okay,
characters who have withstood the test of time. Hua Hua, Kafka, Pela. I pretty much agree with this. I don't know necessarily if I agree with Fu Xuan as much. I feel like Fu Xuan is starting to fall off more. I feel like we're starting to see more of the cracks in Fu Xuan's armor lately. I mean, not to say that she's still not good, but I feel like we have seen more cracks in Fu Xuan's armor in terms of that, but she has lasted a long time. I give her that, right? Also, Hua Hua, I think Hua Hua is really good. I still think Kafka is one of the top units, and then Pele as well. I mean, like, yeah, pretty much so. The one I kind of disagree is, like, what do you call her? I guess Kafka has lost in value now just because we haven't really got many dot characters out of the game. But overall, like, I guess sustainability, maybe Fu Xuan moved down a little bit because I'm starting to see some more cracks in that.
Characters have stood the test of time. The advantage of...
And that's not because, just, like, people dying more often. That's more so of she only really provides a crit rate buff for the team, which is nice in some aspects, but... I mean, like, a lot more, like, of these niche teams, like, a lot more of these teams now are so niche that you want, like, more of a niche, like, support or, like, sustained character for that team. Like, I use Gallagher more than I use my Fu Xuan now, just because he provides extra break, he provides debuffs, like, he can do so much more than Fu Xuan can do and keep my team alive.
Honkai Star Rail being out for a year plus is we actually can look back in the past and see what characters, and for those of you who don't have like statistics at the back of your mind and you've been playing for day one, just get a gut feel. These 4 characters you see on screen are characters that are still used today, and they have been released for a super long time. Maybe not Huo Huo to a large extent because she was a little bit more recent, but characters like Fu Xuan, Hela who has been released at 1.0, and Kafka as well, which was like in 1.2, Fu Xuan's like 1.3, very early characters that are still relevant today and are still being played today, shows you that you can actually make smart decisions about characters that last a really, really long period of time.
I agree.
Of course, granted, I wouldn't say that.
Well, the thing is, right, Kafka fits into that category. Like, if we were to break all these characters down, right, she breaks into the, okay, Fu Xuan, let's break it down real quick. This video's gonna be long as fuck, man, I'm so sorry. So he might go over this, but as a quick little breakdown here, you know, she plays into both sustain, right? So let's put sus, and she also plays as support, right? So let's put that as well. She plays as sustain and support. She does a lot for sustain, like she gives you CC prevention, she gives HP for the team, she does damage negation, and then she, I think I said heal the team as well. And then support-wise, she gives a crit rate buff, right? So CR buff, right? So she does 2 separate things while being in this one category. I'll just quickly like basically the same thing here, buff and that, buff support, sustained. Over here, I mean, really just like a full sin, like DPS shred, some damage maybe. Kafka, she does follow-up, so you have FUA. She has dot reproc, which is super strong, like debuff application. And then she has just normal dot as well, right? So, I mean, she does a plethora of things. So you can throw her on like a dot team. You can throw her on a follow-up team. You can throw her on like a debuff-oriented team. You can throw her on a dot team, right? And she's like a pillar to that.
These characters were just total iron characters that are like very, very strong iron bow characters that don't break over time. Some of them maybe got a little bit lucky, like maybe debuff oriented, DOT oriented, a lot of benefits that happen along the way to them. But at the end of the day, they played into thematics and they succeeded. Our objective in this channel, in this video here, is to plan for the future. What can we actually predict and what styles are very important.
I'm curious to see what
First thing, of course, I just want to do a little bit of a humble brag here. But all these characters were characters that we actually pointed out. So Fu Xuan 1 year ago here, I mentioned she was ridiculously overpowered. We like to give solid advice on the channel, and I don't do this like for every single character. I don't say like,
I don't necessarily think that Fu Xuan is ridiculously overpowered. I just think like her sustainability at the time was insane on top of giving a crit buff, and that fed into the niches a lot more. Kind of better.
Every single character is overpowered. I only have said Fu Xuan so far, and she's one of the characters that really have withstood the test of time. If you want to know why, I'm not going to talk about it in this video. This is not a selling Fu Xuan video. She's not even on the banner. But if you're interested in my thoughts on specific characters, you can check the videos out. Hela, this video was done all the way back in like when Honkai Star Rail first came out. 5 must build units in Honkai Star Rail. Hela was one of them I mentioned in the video too. So these are all pretty solid recommendations. And of course, Kafka here, we had our previous one, Resistant to Powercreep video, which we did like a year ago. This is of course updated format. Kafka was one of them, and she indeed stood the test of time for at least a year duration. Huo Huo is also another solid character. But I'm not just talking about characters who have withstood the test of time. Looking back in the past is nice, but more importantly, we want to...
This is a shit take, and even that she was not OP, she was just OP because there was nothing else in the game. No, like I was saying, at the time she felt OP, right? Like even then, I was saying that like not to pull, like she's not a must pull. At the time, she felt OP because nothing was touching her. But the thing is, like the problem is she has damage mitigation. She doesn't like damage prevention really. She has a very like lackluster heal, and then also she just only plays really into the crit meta, right? So if you don't have a crit based team, then she doesn't really work there. When the enemies start hitting more, then her build has to be better to support herself more, and then your characters die more because you're not actually blocking the damage out. Like, I don't think she's OP. I've never thought she's, like, OP. Maybe back then she felt OP, but... Wait, yeah, but she was not overpowered as a character. It's just, like, nothing it existed, so she cucked the game by ignoring half the mechanics. That has nothing to do with her kit and being OP.
To see in the past.
I'm just saying, she was sustaining for most people's teams, and they usually use her from that point. Like, I don't think people, like, think, like, oh, well, if she's still surviving, like, if she's still, like sustaining the team now, then why not just keep using her? Why pull for another sustain character?
What units fell off, and let's explain why. So DPS characters like Zilla, at one point she was like the flavor of the month. When 1.0 came...
fuck off. Good units that sell... Yeah, no shit. She fell off. Fuck Bronya. Fuck Bronya. That bitch fell off since day one. I've been saying it, guys. She's fell off since day one. Fuck Bronya.
First came out, she's super successful, and then suddenly she like fell off. Same as Zilla, very popular.
I agree 100%. Zilla and her, dog shit. Anyways.
One stage at version 1.4, 1.5 thereabouts, and then she suddenly...
Nah, this is a great take. Zilla and Bronya, dog shit.
Now, we can learn from past experiences because it might happen to your DPS right now that's the flavor of month. So what happened to Zilla was that other characters came out who did a little bit more AoE, like Ting Liu as well as Imbibitor Luni. They tackled much more content rather than just focus on a single boss. They also are different elements, so the element changed. And Han characters just generally fell apart because a lot of more monsters were like, you need to hit across the board rather than like individual you and me, like one target kind of thing. So then that was one of the things that affect Zilla. But with Face Shell coming in, it could change here and there. These are, of course, we're just talking about what caused that like, down curve rather than just looking at a stable graph, because we will learn more from the ups and downs rather than just a horizontal.
Well, the problem is, like, we've gotten more niche DPS, you can build more niche teams. teams that like these are stronger in the niches. I feel like the more, like I said before, I feel like the more niche the characters get, the more damage they have to provide for that niche. Because whenever you take them out of that niche, it becomes shit. Same thing with Firefly.
Curve. Ting Liu, of course, is another character that fell out of meta. She is not a lousy character. Even till today, I think she's very strong. What caused the difference between Ting Liu is probably because Ice is not as meta anymore. If you look at the other characters in the game, if you
I don't think it's necessarily that. I think just like the power differential in general is just a lot different. Like you can throw like Firefly on a break team that puts fire debuff on the enemy, and she automatically breaks the enemy shield and does a fuck ton of damage. If you were to swap the teams around, I think Ting Liu would outperform 100%. With Ting Liu would outperform what Firefly is able to do if you were to swap their teams around. And that just means I just feel like that she's more a versatile DPS than like a niche DPS.
Ice meta, we don't have much choice. There aren't any characters that are very solid Ice DPS. It's just that we haven't had a criteria where everyone is weak to Ice. We don't have the tier in the Memory of Chaos anymore, or like much less, and a lot of the enemies are not as weak to Ice as they are. Everything seems to be like lightning, imaginary, and recently like physical and fire a little bit more when they're trying to sell Firefly and boot heal and stuff like that. So DPS characters. But do you not remember what we said? Like non-DPS characters can also fall off, and these are two characters that were affected by the drop as well. Bronya as well as Ting Yun. If you rewind before Runmei came about, like before Sparkle, before Runmei, before Robin came about, the two characters that everyone was echoing, everyone was chanting out loud that it's like the best characters.
I feel like Ting Yun's still really strong though. I feel like out of these 4 characters here, Ting Yun for sure is still, like, she has a lower usage right now for sure, but I still feel like Ting Yun's like still better than these characters. By a bit. As
well as Ting Yun. Now, 4-star characters, generally you can understand why they fall off, and limited 5 stars generally are expected to fall off, but they were relevant for a super long period of time. New characters came about, and the reason why they fell off is because Runmei was just more universal than Bronya.
Yeah,
she offered
100%.
a lot more. Sparkle offered somewhat of a similar push to Bronya, as well as like a lot of skill points, which helped Environmental Lune teams. And of course, Robin is great for follow attacking, so they play into new styles. And then these two characters like kind of like disappeared from the meta. I mean, of course, if you do not have the signature, like the 5 stars, you probably are using Ting Yun, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just talking about like a broader picture. This is what happened.
Broader picture, I agree.
And how it might apply
I can agree
our
with that,
favorite characters
picture.
right now, moving forward, or the characters that you're planning to pull. So, looking at the past,
Ting Liu felt the most because there's no Ice content. The most part, all other DPS, a hamster because of their respective team. Well, I mean, yes, I can agree with that. But also on top of that, we're getting new DPS in the game now that just automatically change the type of the enemy, so it doesn't really matter if they're on type. Like, I feel like that's a big plus for like a lot of these new DPS. The fact that they're able to like just on their own change typing.
Us is nice, but now let's talk about some characters that are positioned.
And all other DPS just jumps to her because of their respective teams. Yeah, exactly.
That's what this video is aiming to do. Not only do I want to give you like my top 5, but I also want to tell you, you want to know what broadly characters that will do well, so that you can invest in a longer period of time.
Okay, wait, I'm curious to see this. Well-positioned characters for the future.
So give you a DPS character that I think is very good as a side bonus. I don't think all DPS characters will get Powercreep equally in time. One of the characters that I think is, let's start from the first and easiest category, is the sustain characters.
I disagree with that. I actually Wait, is he talking about just sustain character in general?
I wanted to say like Trinity, but I don't know what is the 4 version of Trinity. A quantity? I have no idea, man. But Fu Xuan, Aventurine, Luo Ta, and Ho Ho.
I actually disagree with this. I actually heavily disagree with this. If we're talking pure sustainability, if we're talking outside of, like, I don't see this being there. I don't see this being there. I think honestly Gallagher and then Gallagher probably here. I think we put Gallagher here instead of him. No, I disagree with this. I think Gallagher goes instead of here. I think both of these are fine. I think Gallagher goes instead of Locha, and then maybe Ling Sha goes up here. I don't know like much of what Ling Sha does, but maybe Ling Sha goes up here instead of this. I don't know. But I know for sure Gallagher definitely goes up on this list here, not these two. I would not recommend pulling these two characters if they get a rerun.
Some might argue Luo Ta is the weakest out of all of them, but
I don't think that they're standing the test of time past this
point. He was also
honestly
the earliest character to be released out of all of them. He was even released in CBT 1.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maybe Ling Sha. I don't know what she does, so I don't know. Can't say for certain. But definitely would be replacing Locha. Like 100% certainty would be replacing Locha here for Gallagher.
Way back in like 2021, 2020. His kit has been around for a long period of time. The fact that you can still play him today and he's not totally irrelevant.
If we're talking about just like 4 sustain characters, 100% Locha's off the list. Maybe Fu Xuan's still on the list. Maybe leave Fu Xuan here for now. If we're doing 4 characters, then maybe. If I see 3 characters, they just remove that bitch from the list altogether.
In fact, he became slightly more relevant with characters like Yun Li, and tied together with characters like Blade. We might see a resurgence in Luo Ta, especially if we get more of the game modes moving towards follow-up attacking counter style, because that's where he excels in out the rest of the bunch. But defensive characters, Fu Xuan, Aventurine, Ho Ho, Luo Ta, very hard to go wrong between each of them. I think they're all very solid. If you want to know my thoughts on differences between each of them, I have explained it many times on the channel. Just like search Fu Xuan versus Aventurine, Fu Xuan versus Ho Ho. We talked about all their differences already. I won't go in depth, but just rest assured, pick a defensive character, you're pretty much safe, good to go. And of course, new characters like Ling Sha likely will fall in the same bracket because she's of course an abundance. As of time of recording, I do not have official information. I can't elaborate more, but as long as the character is not too niche, good enough.
I agree. I mean, Fu Xuan can sustain the team, like, kind of still. Like, she doesn't sustain the team as good as before. But, like, I don't know. If we're doing 4 characters, then I can see Fu Xuan being there, but there's no shot Locha there.
Most teams, maybe like a Gallagher 5-star. I think these are characters that are pretty solid. You can make do with a 5-star abundance, a 5-star preservation, quite well moving to the future. But for the sake of not getting struck by Hoyoverse, I'm just going to put it aside and say I have no idea right now. Next category, of course, is the utility character.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. No. I'm sorry, man. EOD, I don't agree with this, brother. I don't agree with him being up here. He's only, like, maybe, okay, I can only... yeah, Silverwolf just kind of dead, bro. All these characters now that have, like, type change, like, I get that she does, like, resistance shred. I get that she does defense shred. I get that she puts a lot of debuff on enemies or whatever. I can't see it, though. I cannot see this, though. I don't think you're well-positioned if you pull this character. Maybe for early game, but outside of that, no. Kafka, for sure. Kafka's a pillar, 100%. Kafka will future-proof. I can't even see him being up there. Like, his debuff is, like, pretty niche or whatever. And, like, it's, like, not very many characters have it or, like, have the amount that he can give. But overall, I still don't see him, like, future-proofing that much unless they release another character in the game that plays off of debuffs. No. I can't see either of these characters being here for, like, future-proof. Honestly. I could be completely wrong on him. But definitely her. No, shot. I don't know. I can't. I don't. I just.
Nihility characters are very similar to harmony characters in a sense that there are two types of nihilities. One is the damage dealers. Second one is the supportive nihility characters. And these three are the supportive nihility characters in general. You have Jiao Qiu, which is the recent character currently in manner as time of recording.
Nah.
A lot of damage buffing. Offers you DOT. Offers you a lot of Archeron support. So you can.
I'm thinking he's about to the new king of. Oh my god.
And also it's providing that fire burn damage, the Ashen Rose, which only other characters that can do that reliably often is like Gwyn and Hook to like most of the extent.
Hey! Gwynaifan's Pog, bro! I just made the Gwynaifan video. If you haven't watched the Gwynaifan video, make sure you go watch it. I used Chef J's best teams, but replaced Gwynaifan, and it still worked perfectly fine. So, just saying.
Other than that, Kafka is a hybrid. She's a bit of both. She's both a support that procs DOT because she uses a skill. She immediately.
The only one here that should be here is
She
Kafka.
counters the weakness of DOTs. DOT's problem with enemy move too slow, the procs don't happen. Kafka instantly pops that DOT. So regardless of how slow.
I think we've already seen both of these characters losing value.
Enemy moves, you will still get the DOT. That's why Kafka is very fundamental and why she lasts us a very long period of time, because she helps you pop that DOT. And even if the enemy's like frozen, they're slowed, they're broken.
I don't know why they're still there.
The DOT.
If we're talking, okay, so if he's talking specifically about Nihility characters, if he is, okay, so the only thing that I can say, I'm going to watch this whole section out and hear what he has to say about this. If we're talking strictly Nihility characters, then maybe these two. Definitely not her. She's off the list. If we're talking strictly Nihility characters, like Nihility, like supportive characters, these two are probably the best Nihility debuff-centric characters. But this, no. I don't see him being future-proof either. I just can't see it. He's a very unique debuff, yes. But the buffers in the game right now, the buffers that currently we have in the game are already better than him. So I just cannot see him future-proofing when the buffers we have are already doing more than the debuffs that he provides. Like I said, maybe if we get another debuff-centric DPS, then he has more value, right? But
which is a very, very huge fundamental issue with DOT teams without Kafka in general. Silverwolf, she's just super solid, especially new players in the game. You don't have much characters. She helps you overcome.
But why are we? I don't like the fact that we're recommending these, like, I guess, like, older characters for, like, just early game players, right? Like, I don't think that we should be getting, like, early game players and new players to pull on these characters that will help them out in the early game. Or go ahead and point them in the direction of the niche teams. Like, that's what I would say, because when they get to the end game, then they're not even going to use these characters anymore. That's my point on this.
The elemental coverage are putting a lot of weakness into the enemy. But nowadays, you could argue that a lot of characters can do that themselves, so the relevance of Silverwolf may not be as high as she was way back in like 1.1, 1.2,
I still don't think so.
It's still pretty high till today. And likely
the only thing that Silverwolf has is a lot of debuff procs and putting a lot of debuff on the enemy. So maybe something that relies on, like, debuffs being on enemies, then sure, I can see that. Maybe something relies on procs of enemies, then sure. But those are still very niche scenarios, in my opinion.
If you're a player who's new to the game, don't have many characters. The other three characters in the broad group category
is... I mean, I disagree with Sparkle being here. I disagree. If we're going to talk about, like, in terms of this here, I disagree with Sparkle being here. Maybe it's just my hatred for action advanced forward characters. I disagree with Sparkle. I mean, these two, 100% for sure. I mean, right here, disagree. I think that she's only as strong as the best crit damage based character in the game, where their niche is crit based damaged and not having to rely on any other damage source. That's my opinion on that.
Of course, your harmony characters, these are like Runmei, these are Robin as well as Sparkle. Very solid picks that will add value to many accounts. Some might add value to more accounts than others, but they are
like the only team that she's being used on is probably a Jingle You or a Danny team right now. Unless you have E2 Acheron.
All best in slot in some form or another. And as promised, I won't just talk about supports. It's like at this point of time, if you're playing enough gacha games, you'll watch our channel for a long period of time. The characters on screen here should be quite comfortable for you. What DPS characters do I think goes a little bit longer than others is characters that apply weaknesses into enemies. Three of such characters I think will be quite interesting to think of.
Yeah, weaknesses.
You have Acheron and you have Firefly. These are the three DPS characters currently in the game that have independently be able to apply weakness into enemies.
Yeah, I think Acheron's the best of these three here. Because Acheron just does, like, high overall damage. Like, even if you, like, I feel like Acheron loses out on less damage then these characters will lose out when they don't have them on their teams.
Why are these good? Is because you reduce the complexity of the things that can power creep your character by, for example, in Ting Liu's case, ice no longer relevant, Archon can colorless break. Ice no longer relevant, or like physical no longer relevant, Boot Hill slaps the physical resistance.
I can kind of agree with this.
Fire no longer relevant.
But the problem is like even if fire is no longer relevant or physical is no longer relevant, if you're not running on a full break team, these characters become shit.
The Firefly just inputs the fire weakness.
Reason they put Sparkle and Bronya still high is easy.
So less things the developer has to do.
I think I should have a hate boner for action advanced characters.
How does mess up your favorite character? That's the idea that you want to do when you're trying to plan for the future long term, and how I see DPS characters that last a bit longer than others, which means that they will likely be king of their category for a little bit longer until, of course, we switch to wind meta, which might be coming soon, and we switch to another meta, for example, like maybe ice or whatever not. Then those will be a totally different thing. We are more going to the horizontal movement of accounts already. So as promised, let's go on to the fun part here. This is the top 5.
Top
I know
5
this is like
characters.
the title of the video and stuff, but it's not the essence of this video. This is just my personal
top 5 characters resistant to power creep.
The concepts that we have talked about.
Holy shit! Here we go. Here we go. Let's see.
But if you want to know my thoughts on the top 5 characters in the game in terms of power creep right now, putting my name on it and signing off.
Okay.
I think these are the top 5 right now that will.
Is this E0? Should be
for the
E0,
next
right?
6 months, even as we are entering a dangerous period, changing meta perhaps with the new Siento characters that are being released like Fei Xiao, Ling Sha, and blah blah blah. My topic, I'll do a bit of explanation also. Probably Fu Xuan.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. No. No.
Fu Xuan is still one of the favorite characters in the game for me. She does offers a lot of stuff. Why do I like Fu Xuan so much? I'll just give you a very quick summary. I know she's not a banner, so I won't elaborate too much on it. She provides damage mitigation. She provides apportionment of damage. This is a guaranteed taunt if you think about it. Doesn't matter whether your teammates get attacked, Fu Xuan absorbs all the damage.
I mean, I guess it's a guaranteed taunt. I mean, I guess if you put it that, it is a guaranteed taunt. But the thing is, the healing's not that much, and especially if you get in the longer fights, she's kind of rocked.
The problem with defensive characters in general and a lot of healers is you do not utilize their HP stat. Fu Xuan utilizes her entire stat bar because it's converted into damage taken for your teammates. A very chunky adventuring, if he doesn't get attacked, the only thing that is being utilized in his stat pool is his shield. That is one of the biggest things about Fu Xuan that I think makes a huge difference.
But the thing is, Aventurine negates damage. She does not negate damage. If you're talking about an AoE taunt, technically Aventurine shields an AoE taunt. Japard shields an AoE taunt. If we're gonna talk about that, right? I think any shielder character is, or I guess like Aventurine Japard is an AoE taunt because they're not taking damage.
Anything else like quick buffing, her CC, ignore, and then all the other stuff that she does, her AoE and whatnot.
But he gives effect res. He has 1 CC ignore. You get hit with a second CC, you're fucked. Aventurine just gives you like effect res to like resist anything.
Fu Xuan is probably one of the better characters. I want to elaborate more. You can check out our videos.
I disagree with
since
that.
she's not on banner, I don't want to like FOMO people. The next character who's also not on banner, but I think is a very solid choice moving forward as well, is a character like Runmei. Many people argue Sparkle, Robin, Runmei. I think Runmei is probably the better one.
No, I agree. I think she is a tier above. I think that Ruan-Mei is a tier above Robin and Ruan-Mei. I mean, obviously in niche scenarios, they're better. I think Ruan-Mei is just a cut above still. Maybe it's just me. Sorry, I'm on my Glaze Fast gamers.
Be played into almost any team, and you will be relatively okay. She might not be best in slot like Robin for follow-up attacking teams, but she will never be too far behind. If you can slot Runmei in, you're probably going to get a DPS gain in most teams. And you are probably wondering, can I have 2 Runmeis? Which side do I put her in? That's probably the bigger cause for concern for most people who have Runmei, rather than you have no idea where to slot her in. Just super general, super versatile. And the 8 teams of Honkai Star Rail actually shows her true potential.
I agree with this.
The only one that probably doesn't outperform in significantly is a case where you need to action advance your teammates, which is where, of course, follow-up Robin, Sparkle might outperform a little bit more. But that's one team which is currently not super meta. Maybe if we shift to that, Runmei's relevant to 4, but still she's quite strong regardless, because you still have access to dance like Cone, which helps you push up your teammates. Jiao Qiu, new character, so maybe I'll expand a little bit more. I'm not a salesman, I don't get any commission from selling new characters whatsoever. I just want to help you build more efficient accounts. And if you're finding value in this video so far, you appreciate the honest content.
No, I don't know. No, brother. No.
Please help me like, comment, and subscribe. Joining as a member would definitely make my day as well. Super strong unit. He offers a lot of debuff. He's a 5-star character, which is a lot.
If we're talking about versatility, if we are talking about, okay, this is top 5 characters. Are we talking, I don't think he's resistant to power creep, by the way. If we're talking the top 5 characters resistant to power creep, I already think she's already been power crept. First of all, the number 1's already been power crept. He's already been power crept on multiple teams as well. There's already better options than him on those teams. Like, the only team he's best in slotting is Acheron team. I don't consider a character that is not power creepable or resistant to power creep that already has better options Like, he only has one team. This is best in slot.
One of the biggest things people forget is although he's tied to the relevance of Akron and DOT characters, he can be played into both. He offers you fire action rolls, so a lot of fire application, a lot of DOT application, a lot of debuffing, almost 100% uptime, super simple to play, and one of the most key things is he's a 5-star with 5-star stats. The issue with nihility teams is you generally don't want to run a tank aggro drawer, and they tend to split their damage very evenly across the board. Let's say you have a premium team like Black Swan here, together with maybe, for example, Jiao Qiu and Run Mei, for example, and your healer is like Ho Ho, who offers you a lot of team-wide buffing. In that case, you are taking damage all places, you have no aggro drawer, and if you have one weak link who's a 4-star, that person dies, you have to restart your whole account. It's very, very tough. 5-star stats actually make a huge difference, specifically in nihility teams.
Well, if your account's built properly, your 4-star character shouldn't be dying. Like, I agree with Jiao Qiu being a good character if we're talking about you're not building like the best in slot teams for these characters. I think he slots into a lot of teams and can work on a lot of teams, but only as like a second or third best in slot option. Like, whenever my main point with him on the videos of I do not summon is you're going to get to a point where you're just going to replace him and not use them. Like, if you don't have Swan in your team, you put him on the team. But once you get Swan, you replace him. Or if you get a better dot character, you replace him.
And maybe to some extent Harmony 5 stars, because King is very squishy, we all know that. But no one has complained Runmei, Robin, or Sparkle is squishy because of that 5-star stats difference. The base HP makes a very...
Honestly, I've ran into more of an issue with my Sparkle dies than my Ting Yun dies, but maybe that's just rebuilding into HP.
Honkai Star Rail for categories of Harmony and Nihility especially. Next up, number 4, Ho Ho. Is she on banner? No, now it's a Sparkle banner. So Ho Ho is not on banner right now, she just passed, but she's also another solid character that I think
I agree with that one.
She grew on me over time. She can be fit into most team compositions because of the amount of attack buffing she provides. She's like a pseudo Harmony.
Energy
she
regen
provides
as well,
energy for the rest of the team, helps push them forward. She cleanses, she heals tons of amount. Very, very solid character. And I find that I fit her into a lot of team compositions. I even play in the Acheron teams even though I don't get the energy from Ho Ho, because the amount of buffing she provides for the rest of the team just offers so much value that it's too hard to ignore. I think Ho Ho is probably my favorite out of all of them. Why is Eventrine, and the last one is definitely not Eventrine, why is Eventrine not part of this too? I thought about it very long and hard, but I think Eventrine generally outperforms in teams where you actually need an imaginary damage dealer to tackle the enemy. Where
what?
The enemy is resistant to imaginary. Eventrine is like good, but he doesn't offer you as much versatility as a character like Ho Ho, or the amount of protection and the amount of utility that a character like Fu Shen offers.
He offers more protection though. What? Your allies are still taking damage with her. He offers more protection. In my opinion, he offers more protection. He also gives effect res to block against like dots, and no shot. There's no shot.
Because you do not protect, and characters that want to lose HP, for example, like Blade, you can still get by with Fu Shen. Whereas
yeah, like Blade. Who else do you want? Blade and Arlon. They want to lose HP. Who else wants you to lose HP right now? And in that case, you just use a fucking healer.
You block out those teams because of that thick shield. Something to think about. You cancel off like one team composition because of that thick shield.
You cancel out multiple team compositions because she only gives crit rate. What?
On HVDK teams. Last but not least, of course, this is Kafka.
Kafka's there. I agree. I agree with Kafka being there.
Not only one of the characters that I think is very, very strong, she has been for the longest period of time. And the fundamental thing about Kafka is not because she's a DOT damage dealer, but she goes against the true weakness of DOT teams. I mentioned it a bit already, but what are DOT teams' weakness? If your enemy is broken, you have a weakness extension like Rame, or you have a character that slows them to oblivion, like your DOT teams will do no damage because the enemy doesn't move at all. Kafka mitigates this, and if Hoyoverse tries to powercreep your team because they add in slow characters that never move, so DOT can't move, Kafka pops them with a skill instantly, and all the damage is being proc a certain percentage of it. So she counters the weakness of DOT teams. And
don't unfollow, don't unsubscribe. I think he brings up decent points through the video. I mean, I just disagree with like some of these takes, like especially with Fu Xuan and Big J being here. I just disagree with those. I mean, I think it's fine to have disagreements and like I guess not even arguments, like conversations in the community, whether how wrong you think they might be. I think it's good to have these conversations and stuff.
DOT teams, which I think
it's not good when everyone agrees on one thing. I don't think
in itself personally is something to be commended on, and it will likely last a long period of time. If you're a DOT player, Kafka is a hitch to anything Hoyoverse might try to throw at you funnily in the long run. And that's the reasons why I think these guys are my top 5 characters. We talked about a lot of the other characters on this list, and as usual, DPS characters tend to be the ones that are not in this list. This is my personal top 5. I would like to hear your top 5 as well in the comments below. But at this point, if you're watching this video, I highly recommend you check out these two content. One is of course the 8 teams of Honkai.
Okay, so what I want to do, I know I just shit on him for his whole existence for these top 5 units and Fu Xuan. I want to go in and actually build out the top 5 characters. I want to build out my own top 5 characters and like look over it and see like what the best top 5 characters are. So we're gonna do that real quick. All right, gamers. So I have my 5 ranked top 5 least power creepable units right here. I think she's already getting power creep. I said earlier in the video. I think we're already starting to see the cracks in her armor. So I'm gonna stop the cope here. I don't think she's necessarily bad, but I don't think she's necessarily like top tier creme de la creme unit anymore, right? For sure. Like even like when she first came out, I was saying to not even like she's not even worth pulling for back then, just because we had characters in the game to like preserve the team. And while she did have the crit rate buff, I mean outside of that, like she has CC prevention. which is nice. You can't block any other debuff, which Adventuring can do. But anyway, this is my list anyways, guys. If you want me to go full into detail on like the least power creepable units in Honkai Star Rail, I'll make a full video on this. This video's already gone on for an hour, but I do think Ruan Mei is number 1, Kafka is number 2. She can absolutely do so much in terms of dot, reprocking dot. She's a pillar for dot teams, but not only that, she has follow-ups. She just has debuff on normal attack. She just does so much. I think Kafka deserves a spot up here. Adventuring can be slotted into literally any team. With her, she really cannot be slotted into any team. The thing is, he helps Acheron teams out. He helps any team out. He gives a crit damage buff. Yes, crit rate probably more effective than the crit damage he provides, but she has damage mitigation while he has damage prevention. I would rather have preventative damage than mitigated damage, in my opinion on that. And then just overall, in general, I think the effect res is more encompassing than just 1 CC prevention, because if you build enough effect res on your characters, you can practically have 100% effect res on them as well, with him being on the team, because he increases it so much. Then we move on to Hua Hua here. Gives energy. The only reason she's not higher is because I was talking with chat here. She doesn't provide energy to Acheron, and to me, I guess, yeah, that makes her lower to me. So, yeah, that's why I moved her down. And then Robin as well. Robin can be fit in a lot of teams. She gets attack buff, she gets damage % buff, and then she advances forward the whole team. Like, realistically, she can be used on most teams. These characters right here cannot be used in an Acheron team. Hell, you could even use her in an Acheron team, potentially. You're not going to get as much damage, but overall, her teams are more encompassing than these teams, if you guys know what I'm saying. I was just trying to get through this really fast. Anyways, gamers, that's going to do it for today's video. It's a long-ass video. Thanks for watching if you watched. Yeah, thanks to EOD Gamer, guys. Make sure you go give EOD Gamer a like and a subscribe, even though I disagree with some of these takes. Near the end of the video, I agree with most of his takes near the beginning of the video. Give him a subscribe, give him a like. I think he's a good content creator. Very nice video, brother man. I do disagree. If you want to chat sometime, if you're watching this, then we can surely chat sometime about this. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed. See you in the next one later. Bye-bye.